Our next guest is actually really special to me. I grew up in Dallas, and I first learned about him at a Mavericks game. He's so much more than the owner of the Mavs. Please welcome our next guest, Mark Cuban, and our moderator, Matt Burns.
These are kind of comfy.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, take off your shoes. Get comfortable. Why not? I'm not going to do it, though, because nobody wants to see my feet. Anyway, Mark, well, welcome back.
Thank you.
You were here in 2008 for TechCrunch 50.
And it's changed. It's grown.
It's quite large now.
Quite large.
And you were interviewed then and a judge, and now you went on to TV fame and everything.
Shocking.
Right. So to us normal people, your list of accomplishments kind of reads like a bucket list.
I hope so.
So let me go through this. You built and sold companies for millions.
Huh?
You bought a sports team and won a championship.
Yep.
Became a household TV name.
Almost. Yeah.
And really, truly, you danced with the stars.
That was the best part.
It was. But now you're kind of a privacy expert because of your latest company, CyberDust.
I won't call anybody a privacy expert, but it's important. Yeah.
You founded CyberDust,
Right.
co-founded it. Are you afraid that you're such a public person that your communications can be hacked?
Well, the genesis of it was I had the SEC come after me, and every message that I emailed, text, whatever it was, they discovered it. Obviously, we turned it over when we went through the discovery process, and they created their own context for it. Right? There was one part, literally, I said, I hate to lose, talking about the Mavericks, and when we went to trial, they brought that up. See, he hates to lose. That's why he sold his stock and didn't want to take a loss. It was just crazy that anything that you say can create its own context. So from there, it was like thinking about it. If you think of any email, any message you send, the minute you hit send, you lose ownership of that message. Mm-hmm. But you don't lose responsibility. We see that over and over and over again. And so with CyberDust, when you hit send, it goes to another CyberDust user, never touches a hard drive, is never cached anywhere, can't be recovered like Snapchat, can't be erased and then recreated in any way, shape, or form by the NSA or anybody.
Right, right. So where do you see CyberDust fitting into a person's life?
CyberDust fills a couple different roles. One, we all are looking for email 3.0. And as we look at it, people are trying to come up with better way to filter, better this and that. In reality, email will evolve so that it's there for things you have to reference in the future. CyberDust will be there hopefully to replace a lot of your texting and your email because it's ephemeral, meaning when I send you a message, you look at it, and 30 seconds after you're done reading it, it's gone. You can't procrastinate. And so in my personal experiences and others, it's it's increased my email productivity probably 25–30%.
Sure.
And then a third application that's evolved, we have something called a blast feature, where you can have followers on CyberDust. So for instance, I have 80,000 followers. And so it's very much like Twitter, but the difference is when I blast something out, the only people who see it are the people who follow me. And because it's inline rather than timeline, everybody sees it. But most importantly, Twitter has kind of devolved into a scenario where there's so many trolls that before we tweet anything, we have to be careful. We have to consider how somebody else might look at what
It's fun to be a troll.
Well, it's fun to be a troll, but unless you're being trolled, right?
Right, sure.
And so with CyberDust, there's no trolls. And as a result, what happens when I blast something out to you, the replies I get are one-to-one, right? Nobody else can see them. So if this morning I blasted out a motivational quote, I got a lot of responses to it, but I can respond to each of those personally.
Right.
Whereas on Twitter, I don't know if anybody's going to see it because it's timeline, and because there's so many people that are trolls that are just looking for things that any of us say or looking at the responses, people really don't speak openly and honestly. So you pull all those things together, and that's just a matter, as a result, you shrink our digital footprint. And I think as we go forward, CyberDust will look for new ways to shrink our digital footprint, and it'll become more important to all of us because there's just so much out there that we don't remember that we sent that can pop up when you least expect it,
right.
That can be posted online. Even the most, and I'll give you the other example. I have a daughter who's about to turn 11. I trust her. She's the 30-year-old. She's more, she's more of an adult than I am a lot of times. But she's going to send a very simple message to some idiot kid at some point, something like, he just found my iPad, Dad. I sent him a message that says, I love you for that. And that little dumbass kid is going to show all his buddies, see, Alexis loves me. right, and use it completely out of context. With CyberDust, I'm going to have her use this app and say, look, that message is going to be gone, right? It's not going to be something that can be repurposed. And if the kid tries to screenshot it, you know it, and then we can go deal with it.
Now, I'll tell you, when we were preparing for this interview and trying to get you here, you had only talked to me on CyberDust.
Right.
Which was kind of annoying because I had to go back and try to remember what we had, and I had to take notes. And who takes notes anymore?
Well, no, it's not annoying. If you learn how to, some people just
So
use
I'm doing
an
it
app.
wrong.
You're doing it wrong, right? Because
Okay.
when you send a message in CyberDust, if you just tap on it, right, it pins it. And so you'll remember what you said. Now, it won't pin what someone sends to you, right?
Sure.
So, but for things that we have to remember, we'll go use email, right? For stuff like that, okay, we'll be here this time, this date, then it's okay. Email's a nice compliment.
So where do you see the app going forward from here?
You'll see us do a lot of privacy commerce, right? Like Twitter today announced that they're going to be doing commerce, and they did some smart things with it. But you don't want to be in a position where trolls are coming out going, you bought that, or you bought this, or why didn't you buy this? So I think commerce is going to there's going to be a lot more privacy involved with commerce as we go forward. I think you're going to see us grow as a nice complement for Twitter, where Twitter is just a publication, a promotion,
Sure.
but CyberDust is for one-to-one personal communications. You'll see us extend into email and other apps. Anything that reduces footprint. We have another application called GetExpire, X-P-I-R-E. And what I use it for, and what a lot of people are using it for, when you post a tweet right now, there's no expiration time. There's people that have 25, 30,000 tweets out there. I guarantee you that I can tell you more about you from those tweets than your significant other can, than your shrink can, right? Just because we say so much about ourselves, and over the years, we just leave it there. With GetExpire, you can set expiration time so that this tweet expires in an hour, in a minute, in a day, in a week, in a year. And you can do the same thing with Facebook posts. You can do the same thing with Tumblr posts, because you don't want to just have all these. I mean, look, does anybody out here still have their MySpace profile up? I mean, do you want people going out looking at your, see, yeah.
I do.
I mean, but it's still, and you're still friends with, what's his name, right?
Right, sure.
Yeah, so.
Exactly.
The whole point is that over time, your digital profile gets so big that it has a set of consequences that we haven't even begun to consider. And so we'll be creating tools and extending the CyberDust digital platform, privacy platform, to shrink that footprint, to let you gain more control of your privacy, and to protect you from who knows what.
So, Mr. Cuban, switching gears a bit here.
Mr. Cuban, okay.
You like that? I called 50 Cent Mr. Cent one time, and
That'll work.
people still remind me of it, so I keep that going. CyberDust is company number what for you?
I have no idea.
More than 10, less than
Oh
10?
yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, in terms of companies I've started and run, 30 plus.
I tried to figure it out and I couldn't, so that's why I asked that question. But really, what drives you to keep on founding new companies?
I just like to, business is the ultimate sport to me. Dealing with the Mavericks, I'll talk to our guys and they'll talk about the 48 minutes and the length of an NBA game and practice and preparation. But there is no sport as competitive as business. It's 24/7, by 365, by forever, and there's all these young kids out here trying to kick your ass. I just love to kick your ass, Seriously. I mean, I'm just so competitive that, fuck y'all, I just want to win. And that's in a nutshell.
But you're not here in the Valley. Why aren't you based here in the Valley?
Because no one smart is in the Valley, right? Because everybody's in the, seriously though, there's a certain culture here in the Valley, and then there's a mini version of that in LA and a minier version of that in New York, and there's everywhere else. Sure. And to me, as someone starting companies, I don't have a problem really attracting smart people, and so I can extract people from here. The cost of living is a lot less than Dallas. No state income tax. There's a lot of advantages. But as an investor, there's an incredible arbitrage available. We talk about it on Shark Tank all the time. If you're from Stanford and you have a tech degree or an MBA or a law degree or design degree, if you don't get an $8 million valuation on your startup, you're an idiot, right? People think there's something wrong with you. Outside of these three areas, that same startup might have a $1 or $2 million valuation. And there's just as many smart people, just as many great business opportunities in aggregate outside the valley as there are inside. So investing outside, selling inside, to me, is the best arbitrage available, and that's worked out very well for me. And plus, Silicon Valley now has got a FOMO approach to investing, whether it's seed, angel, or VC, where, FOMO, fear of missing out, where everybody throws money at everything because they want to find their unicorn, right? So, hey, I invested in Twitter, I invested in Uber, I invested in Facebook, I invested in this, but what they don't tell you is the other 99% of their portfolio that has failed. And that approach doesn't sit well for me. And that's led to mistakes. Like Travis was just here. I turned down Travis and I invested and funded one of Travis's earlier companies, and he probably brought to me first or second Uber, and we couldn't agree on valuation, and so he went and found somebody who gave him a 10x valuation, and that's probably the one investment I wish I could get back. But I invested in Box.net just based off an email, and Aaron and I have stayed friends, but I got my money back, and I was thrilled to death. But I've got 20 other great exits as well.
What's something that, if I was to approach you for an investment, what's something I should know about you?
Know about me?
Yeah, know about you. To get your money, essentially.
To get my money?
Right.
Look, I'm very, very transparent with all my companies. You should know the companies I've invested in. You should know why I've invested in those companies, what value you can bring to me, and why your company is going to be great. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people here, particularly in the Valley, they sell themselves, which is fine. Look at me, here's my pedigree. They sell the idea, which is okay. But then they figure that getting funding is the end-all, be-all. See, I got a seed round, I got an angel round. These people agree with me, so this must be a great idea.
Sure.
I hate that approach, right? I want to know not what your exit's going to be. I want to know why you're going to be a successful company in case you can't get an exit. So I want to know how you're going to get from here to being insanely cash flow positive, because then it makes it a whole lot easier to continue to fund it.
That's a great answer. Now, through Shark Tank and all these private investments you've done over the years, what's something about a pitch that will make your eyes just glaze over instantly?
That's pretty easy. When someone walks in and says the market is X billion, and then basically implies if I only get 1/10 of 1% of that X billion dollars, it's going to be a huge company, because, I mean, that means nothing, right? Mm-hmm. We all can talk about, pick an industry, say how big it's going to be, and it makes it seem so achievable if we just say we're just going to get 1%.
Right.
When in reality, that takes no thought, that takes no intelligence to do whatsoever. So, that's probably going to turn me off and have me say no right off the bat.
So on the flip side, what's the best way to do it?
Tell me what your core competency is. Tell me why you're great at it. Tell me why it's protectable. Tell me how it can scale.
That's it, huh?
Pretty much.
That's pretty fantastic. So going forward with Shark Tank, how did you get involved with that?
Mark Burnett came to me originally when it first was coming on the air, but that's right when the SEC sued me, so ABC wouldn't let me on the show. Then when this case initially got dismissed, they came back to me again and said, okay, that looks like it's going to be behind you, and we know that was bullshit. Would you like to be on the show? So I came on as a guest shark, and honestly, I didn't think the show would last. I thought I'd do 3 episodes as a guest, and it'd be fun. Maybe I'd see some good deals, and it'd be over with. But the show is just blown up. And I came to learn, having done it and having heard the response from people, that the show really isn't about business. It's about aspiration. It's about inspiration. It's about, telling the whole country that the American dream is alive and well. People move to the Valley because they believe in the American dream. They believe in their abilities. But in middle America, in places where there's not a lot of money, they want to see, a family from Iowa who came up with a screen protector, and is now doing $1 million in sales, or any number of different examples, because then they can project themselves. And what I've since learned also is that Shark Tank is the #1 show on all of television watched by families together. I mean,
why do you think that is?
Again, if you have a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, 15-year-old, and they're sitting there at home with you on a Friday night, saying, well, I like this idea, or I don't like this idea, or I wouldn't pay that much of a valuation. Understanding what equity is, understanding what profit and gross margin is. Parents, you're going to be proud of your kid when they're talking about that, instead of talking about, who's #1 on the charts and tell me about, Ariana Grande's latest hit,
Sure.
I think it's a bonding factor that hopefully we're evolving from, I want to see my kid be the star quarterback or see my kid be the star on the basketball team, to them being an entrepreneur and being excited about business. I guess you can call it the new age lemonade stand.
Yeah, there's a theater for entrepreneurship right now, and we see that with TechCrunch Disrupt, the battlefield. You were involved with that at the beginning
Sure.
too, and in the early days we've had companies such as Mint. I think that was from your class there in 2008. Grow up and blow up.
Yep, big time.
So switching gears one more time, and we're going to wrap this up shortly.
Sure.
But you recently talked about companies moving overseas to avoid U.S. taxes.
Yep.
What's wrong with trying to make your company more profitable?
Absolutely nothing's wrong with trying to make your company more profitable, but you have to ask, A, who owns your company? Shareholders, right? I think there's a misconception. The conventional wisdom is you buy a stock and the ultimate goal is to see the price of the stock go up. That's wrong.
Okay. So
What's right is you buy a stock and you want that company to increase your net worth, right? They're not necessarily the same. So if I'm buying stock and it comes Sara Lee or picking another one of the inversion companies, and all of a sudden now they're just moving overseas purely to avoid the taxes they otherwise would be paying. When one company does it, when two companies do it, maybe not so much. When that becomes a trend and now companies are buying little startups in England or startups in some other country, and we're losing all that tax revenue, who makes up the difference?
I get it.
Right? So now we're all making up the difference, and if in making up that difference, the marginal cost of our taxes goes up 1%,
Sure.
2%, 3%. Now all of a sudden, because this company is trying to increase their bottom line, my net worth goes down because we all here and other taxpayers have to compensate for that. Whereas on the flip side, okay, let's work on changing the tax rates here. Let's come up with solutions. But you're not, the markets for improving profitability are very efficient in that,
Sure.
Accountants and CPAs and lawyers are going to find ways to work around things. And what starts out as anecdotal turns into a flood. And once that flood hits, what are you going to do then, right? So I like investing in companies. Then there's another part to that. When a company moves overseas and takes that tax revenue with them, there's some impact on services. Something's got to give until that revenue is made up. And again, that negatively impacts their customers. Now all of a sudden, if their customer base, their tax rate's going up, they might not have as much money available to them, particularly if they're a Walgreens who didn't move overseas, and that could have a negative impact on their business long term.
So we're in this together.
We're in this together. It's a good way of putting it.
So last question here.
Well done, Mr. Burns.
Thank you. As the owner of the Mavs, do you have any advice to the new owner of the Clippers, Mr. Steve Ballmer?
I emailed Steve, told him to use CyberDust, and then I told him that he shouldn't be so shy, that he's going to have a lot of catching up to do to keep up with me. No, like anybody else, you just want to be yourself. I mean, fans want to see an owner who eats, sleeps, and breathes the team. What I want to see, it's one thing to be in Microsoft when you're the CEO and, maybe a tape of your speech gets leaked to TechCrunch, right? Mm-hmm. It's a whole other thing when, one of the big differences, take a step back, one of the big differences between running a Microsoft or a public company or any company is there's no beat reporters that have to write about you every day. There aren't 20 blogs that are having to come up with something every day like there are for the Mavs or the Clippers. And so everything he does is going to be recorded. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how he is on the sidelines, whether he becomes very aware of the camera,
Sure.
right, or whether he just stays himself. I'm hoping he's crazy because then, it'll give me a little sidekick to point
take
at.
a little heat off you, too.
Oh, no, I don't give a shit, right? I mean, it's been it'll be 15 years in January, and you haven't seen me mellow or slow down. If you don't like it, that's your problem.
So are the Mavs going to make it through the playoffs this year?
We're undefeated. I'm happy. I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time. I really
Mr. Burns, I appreciate it. Thank you.